believed to be possibly Asian male wearing glasses. And yeah, this pursuit going on now for some time now, for at least the past 15 minutes from the 605 freeway. So this driver has been exhibiting some dangerous behavior, although right now you can see it's on the HOV lane, but has been crossing dangerous behavior, although right now you can see it's on the HOV lane, but has been crossing double lines and has been showing some dangerous moves.
Now we're told that the pursuit's made its way into Whittier, and as we just had the wider shot there, you saw there's plenty of black and whites, not just one, in pursuit of this stolen vehicle suspect, what we think is a stolen vehicle anyway, as Bob said, just because of the plates, they came back as stolen. And at this point, going to this, we did see some weaving in and out of lanes. Here we are, it's, noontime on a Getaway Friday, before Hanukkah on Sunday, and of course Christmas Wednesday. So we'll see how traffic Friday, before Hanukkah on Sunday, and of course Christmas Wednesday. So we'll see how traffic plays a role into this latest pursuit now in Whittier. Northbound 605 in the carpool lane.
Right now it seems like officers, this driver not going terribly fast, again 60 to 65 miles per hour, perhaps up to 70, and staying there on the carpool lane. Since the time that we've been on it, we haven't seen that much erratic behavior, but earlier there were reports that that car was driving across some of the solid yellow lines, which always is quite dangerous there. But you can see a number of the black and whites, at least 4 or 5 of them, following closely behind, and no doubt there's also an airship overhead as we continue to follow the car. They are northbound on the 605 at Whittier. Interesting here, we talk about the one suspect. Of course, we know there's a driver here, but there's still no telling whether or not there's other people inside, and the windows there heavily tinted, so it's really difficult to get a view inside the vehicle, determine whether or not there's a passenger or anyone else that might be involved in any of this. But those police units, the CHP, following closely behind here of what is this pursuit now through the city of Whittier on the 605.
Right, northbound 605 here. And, Bob, we've covered plenty of these pursuits. And when we cover these on freeways, the open roads like that, we always have to worry about the unsuspecting drivers who, here they are, they're coming up, they're minding their own business, and then here comes this danger right behind them in their rear view mirror. And, law enforcement, their hands are ultimately pretty tied when it comes to how do they stop this, because you don't use a pit maneuver, of course, on a freeway. Spike strips have been used before, but we can't read their minds on how they're actually going to what they're saying, how they're going to bring this to an end. Now in the Pico Rivera area, northbound 605.
Too many cars on the roadway to do a pit maneuver, and obviously the speed's way too fast to be doing a maneuver like that. It's just way too dangerous to try in a pit maneuver. So at this point, these officers follow closely behind as they're doing right now, and again, another airship overhead that continues to follow this car on the 605 freeway. This is a little bit safer than if it was a pursuit that was going to be going on city streets where you have pedestrians that are walking around, cars at stoplights. Often we see these pursuits that go through intersections, which is crossing red lights and stop signs. That can be extremely dangerous for the other drivers on the roadway. But from what we've seen so far, just in the short time that we've been over this, it looks like this driver sticking to the fast lane on the 605 freeway and continuing that northbound track. No doubt there's lights and sirens on by these black and whites, but this car not stopping, the driver continuing to push forward on the 605 freeway and not changing lanes.
Right.
It was what's interesting here. So just continuing on this this path forward on the 605 freeway, the northbound lanes.
It is nice that he's not the suspect is not weaving in and out of lanes, just sticking to the carpool lane. That tends to change if traffic gets bunched up a little bit as he tries to evade officers. So at this point, traffic is working in the suspect's favor. This pursuit, northbound 605 in Pico Rivera area. A stolen vehicle is reported here, one suspect inside. You know, what police don't know, there's so many variables. If this person is armed, here he is now going over the
double lines
and switching lanes. If this person's armed.
That's definitely a wild card in all of this. If the person could possibly be armed, there could be another person in the vehicle. So those are a lot of the unknowns there. And now this driver seems to be picking up speed just a bit and continuing to cross the double lines there onto the other lanes of traffic, even though there are no cars there on the HOV lane. From what we can glean here, we've seen from overhead, it's going faster than the speed of traffic, although some of these other drivers also might be slowing down just a bit as they see the lights and sirens from the police units that are appearing behind them. And the good news here is it does look like those drivers are doing the right thing. They're seeing the police units behind. Perhaps they understand that this is some sort of a police pursuit, and they're either slowing down and they're pulling over to the right-hand side of the freeway and letting this car go by. And that certainly is the right thing to do. So police pursuit continues here through several cities, the 605 freeway. This driver still staying on this direct track northward on the 605 freeway, again believed to be a stolen vehicle. The plates have been run and they have come back as a stolen car, a gray Honda Civic. Unknown how many people are exactly inside. Slowing
down now, it looks like traffic slowing down. So here it is. What we have called ahead of time is that once traffic gets in a way, then usually in this case, the suspect starts to weave in and out of traffic. So it's hard to get a look ahead of how traffic is okay, there we go, as we widen out. So plenty of black and whites behind him. The lead agency here is the California Highway Patrol. So CHP, northbound 605, on the tail of this suspect in this stolen vehicle, thought to be now in Baldwin Park, by the way. So it's gone from Carson to Whittier to Pico Rivera to Baldwin Park now. Stolen vehicle said to be a Honda Civic, tinted windows, one male inside, said to be an Asian male wearing glasses, so limited information as he is seemingly exiting. Or is this a transition?
We'll see what happens there. It's interesting, even as you said, this time of the day, on a Friday, getaway day for a lot of people. People are going away for the holidays, and the traffic doesn't seem that bad, so it's allowing this driver to continue on this pace on a northward direction. It looks like he went on an interchange here. So the Baldwin Park area, this would be north of the 10 freeway, north of the 60, and looks like there's a major interchange here that he just went through. We'll try to get an idea
accurate location
where this is, but didn't get off the freeway. That's some good news there, that this driver did not go onto surface streets, continues to stay on the freeway, pursued by several police officers. We've seen some moves that can be certainly dangerous, which is going over double lines, swerving over to the right lane, to the shoulder, and then just trying to thread some needles to get through some of the traffic when things get bound up ahead. This driver not stopping despite these officers behind with their lights and sirens. This driver continues to push forward. Okay, see, it looks like we're on the eastbound 10 freeway now in Baldwin Park.
In the HOV lane. As we get a tighter shot, it's hard to tell. I'm not sure if that's reflection, if the window's open, the driver's side window, or if that is just simply a reflection. Given the tinted windows, it's tough to make out. But cruising along here in the HOV lanes, it looks like traffic is getting a little bit thicker here.
Yeah, in fact, it does look like the window's open. The window's open, so he does have the window propped open there on the left-hand side, the driver's side of the vehicle. Again, still really difficult to really view anything inside because of the heavily tinted windows here. But the 10 freeway now going in the eastbound direction near the Baldwin Park area. Slowly we'll go to West Covina. And anybody that goes through this area knows that, I mean, the 10 freeway is always really busy through this area. So I'm expecting we could see some slowdown here as the traffic gets a little bit more congested through the West Covina area in the eastbound direction. So Skyfox, a closer look now from overhead at what is believed to be a stolen vehicle. The plates ran back as stolen, and this driver just not stopping. We say there's traffic, but even when there's traffic, like I said, the other drivers on the roadway are doing the right thing, and they're just pulling over or slowing down to the right-hand side. So
Right.
it's giving this this driver a path forward to continue moving forward there on the HOV lane.
So we can tell you that this pursuit was picked up in Carson, and when we picked it up, it was in the Whittier area. Pico Rivera also passed through Baldwin Park currently, so clocked some mileage thus far. Probably been underway for about 30 minutes now. The stolen Honda Civic, we understand that this is a Honda Civic with tinted windows. And as we do go a little bit closer, you can see the movement on behalf of the suspect inside, said to be an Asian male wearing glasses. So CHP officers did get a look at this person at some point clearly, to be able to give that little bit of description of the suspect. We do know, according to CHP, that there's just the suspect inside, so no one else is inside. You know, there's so many questions, always variables of what they're learning about the suspect. Is this person armed, which makes it even more dangerous? And in these pursuit situations, often we see that the suspect drives to an area that they're familiar with. We haven't seen circling back yet to get back to the Carson area as we make our way now eastbound 10 in West Covina.
Like I said, it's just a straight shot now. First northbound on the 605 and now eastbound on the 10 freeway, and looks like the traffic was moderate and now almost light on a Friday, which is always so surprising to me.
Right.
But eastbound 10 freeway there on the HOV lane, speeds anywhere from 50 to 70 miles per hour. At last report was eastbound on the 10 passing Francisquito Avenue in that West Covina, Baldwin Park area. Now we are in the West Covina area, so it continues to move eastbound on the 10 freeway. Shortly we'll get up to the 57 freeway, and if he keeps going, then he or she keeps going, then we're looking at the Inland Empire here. So doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. Eastbound 10 freeway now at Pacific is where they are right now.
All right, so we're just cruising along here, following this latest pursuit. Skyfox overhead. And, of course, they have their airship up as well, CHP does, to be able to track the suspect. And, usually they're alerting other, as they get into other jurisdictions, other departments will help out in these pursuits. It's nice that it's not an erratic, wild, not putting...
At least not yet. It's
right,
not erratic and wild. They are always dangerous, of course. We're looking at now the eastbound 10 freeway at West Covina Parkway, and again, open roads here, just about, which is always surprising to me at this hour, even on a Friday, that we're not looking at more traffic here. But people on the roadway there seem to be doing the right thing. They're pulling over to the right and giving this person a clear path forward. Airship overhead as this driver of what is believed to be a stolen vehicle continues to push forward. It's been going on for some time now on the 605 freeway, and now onto the 10 freeway in the eastbound direction through the city of West Covina. One person at last report was inside, but really unclear whether or not we're looking at more people inside because of the dark tinted windows that are surrounding, that are covering the windows of this vehicle. A little bit of a slowdown here because of traffic, it looks like.
Which isn't a surprise. It's a surprise when there isn't traffic in our area. Okay, so eastbound 10, West Covina. This all started in Carson. They ran the plates back on this, as Bob mentioned, and it came back as stolen. Said to be a four-door Honda Civic. At last report, with one person inside. We picked it up in the Norwalk area. It's gone through Whittier and Baldwin Park, now in West Covina here.
The 10 freeway now at Sunset was the last report, so still continues to move in that eastbound direction, and no signs whatsoever that this driver is slowing down or stopping, just continues to move forward. Very often when you have pursuits like this, the driver inside, perhaps there's some sort of communication with people inside, with someone that the person knows, or even with police officers, and at this point, no sign that this person is communicating whatsoever, and no motions from inside the vehicle, even though we see the driver inside, the windows cracked open, and we don't see any sign that this person inside is making any signals or trying to communicate at all with officers. Just continues on this track forward in the eastbound direction on the 10 freeway.
We just saw an airship go below Skyfox there. It looks like traffic is bunching up ever so slightly here, eastbound 10 West Covina at this point, with at least, I think at last count, there was 4 or 5 black and whites behind. CHP, the lead agency on this, and yes, speeds are slowing down as traffic slows here.
Traffic light to moderate, and we're looking at eastbound 10 freeway now, passing North Azusa Avenues. The speeds, because of the traffic, 40 to 50 miles per hour. We've seen this pursuit go as fast as 70 miles per hour, but you know, keeping within the 50 to 70 mile per hour range. And for the most part, and there you see, it looked like possibly could be a police helicopter, but 40, 50, 60, 70 miles per hour around that range. And for the most part, we've seen this driver really stick to the HOV lane on the left-hand side of the freeway. So as it approaches and other cars are just moving forward, moving to the right and making a path for this driver to be able to continue forward and continue to try to evade police for quite some time.
Now the quandary becomes how do law enforcement stop this? It's a pit maneuver. That's not an option on a freeway. Spike strips have been used before, but other than that, it's typically that they just follow until the driver decides to give up, foot bail. We've seen that before come to when it seems like the pursuit's never going to end, then suddenly just stop and just give up. They just get tired. Then there's always the question of gas. You know, if in fact this car was stolen, maybe it was on a quarter of a tank and it's only going to go thus far. So there are plenty of factors when it comes to pursuing these suspects and covering these police pursuits.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, because as long as we've been covering these pursuits, they're often seemingly a lot more dangerous than this based on the actions of the driver. If this driver continues to stay on the HOV lane and just continues on this path, 70 miles an hour below, most cars are going typically on those freeways that speed or even faster than that sometimes, blowing the speed limit. But it's even safer for these officers just to stay back, maintain the distance, and wait and see what kind of a move that this driver may take, or just let the gas run out. That's happened in the past before too. But this right now the strategy is just to keep following and watching. At last report, the eastbound 10 freeway passing Grand Avenue, the speed's 50 to 55 miles per hour, and again the traffic moderate to heavy, but it does look like drivers are pulling over to the right-hand side, now approaching Holt Avenue in the city of West Covina. Very shortly, we'll be getting up to the 57 freeway here, and so the driver once again has to make some decisions as to whether he or she is going to continue forward on the 10 freeway or split off and take a different path. Now in the city of Covina.
Going by soon enough, right before the 57, Cal Poly Pomona up there as well. So, you know, it's remarkable how light the roads are right now. Given the fact that it's 12:30, nearing the bottom of the hour here, and a Friday, nonetheless.
Continuing on the eastbound 10 freeway, approaching Villa Verde. Speeds still moderate to light, and that's really allowing this driver to continue to push forward. Now in the city of Covina, and we're getting a little bit of a better look to the front of the vehicle here as we get a little closer, and still unable to see whether or not there's another person inside other than the driver, because the other windows seem to be pretty heavily tinted. But again, believed to be a stolen vehicle. Now on the eastbound 10 freeway, approaching the 57, as we said, that major interchange there, where the driver will definitely have to make some decisions here. 60 to 70 miles per hour. And as you look here, again, quite remarkable that the traffic is really light at this hour. And there you see one, two, three, four, five, at least five, 6 or 7 black and whites that are continuing to follow. And it's important that these officers still have the backup, because when this does come to an end or to a stop and the driver does stop, there's no telling what kind of a situation we're looking at there, whether or not they're armed or there's another person inside. So the officers do need backup. It's important that they continue to have the backup available there until this pursuit does come to an end.
Okay, so at the bottom of the hour, it's 12:30 now. If you're just joining this coverage, it is a stolen car pursuit suspect on the eastbound 10 now in Covina. It started in Carson. We picked it up on the northbound 605. And here we are about 20 minutes later. One person said to be inside, an Asian male wearing glasses. Looks like traffic is bunching up here at the 57, so we'll see if we can make sure that we stay on it. We have Kevin Takumi, who flies in Skyfox for us regularly and covers pursuits. Kevin, what do you make of this suspect just driving straight, direct shot here, not driving erratically?
Yeah, it's just one of those pursuits where we see what, they wanted to pull this car over just for the minor traffic violation, found out it was stolen, and the driver took off. And it's one of these pursuits where they're just going to keep going until either the car breaks down or it runs out of gas, or they can get it slow enough to where they can pit it. But so far, like you've said before, no reports that the car or the driver is armed at this point, so they're just willing to stay behind it. A lot of traffic here as it starts to build up as you get into the Pomona area and the Kellogg Pass. It's building up, but you can see that they're just willing to stay back here. Even as the car slows down, they're not even trying to get up close to it to try to pit it into the wall or anything like that to bring it to a close. So they're just going to keep following it here. If the car was originally reported as stolen out of Fontana, but we don't know exactly if that's the registered area where it comes back to. But you can see they're just kind of content at following it until it either runs out of gas or the driver just decides to pull over at this point. But since it hasn't been erratic since the beginning, a few moves here and there, and the original want was trying to pull it over for crossing that double line through the carpool area. But so far, nothing erratic, and it's just been kind of staying on the straight and narrow. Speeds relatively normal at this point. Nothing in the high 80s or 100s or anything like that. So you can tell it's just kind of moving its way along eastbound on the 10 here as it makes its way, out towards, maybe back towards the Fontana area. If it was stolen out of that area, maybe the driver knows that area, and that's where that driver is headed back to.
So we do know, by the way, that this driver did pass the 57 freeway and stayed on the 10 freeway, continues now on the eastbound lanes on this track. And yeah, it is interesting, Kevin, when we look and go through this area, that traffic is relatively moderate and not heavy, and certainly it does look like other vehicles on the road appear to be seeing the lights and sirens, moving toward the right-hand side, so clearing almost a direct path for this vehicle. But this almost is the safest strategy for the CHP and the officers right now, because relatively speaking, all pursuits are dangerous, but relatively speaking, as we've been covering this for several years now, this is certainly, you could say, it's not as dangerous as what we've seen other drivers behave in the past.
Yeah, speeds are relatively, normal. It looks like we're going about 60 miles an hour here, 70 miles an hour. Nothing nothing erratic, not changing lanes, trying to get through the traffic and all that. Traffic, except for going through the Kellogg Pass there and through the 57, relatively light. It's supposed to be kind of a holiday getaway kind of day, but eastbound on the 10, traffic relatively light. A lot of it's probably being held back by the traffic break behind it, but even still, as he moves eastbound here, so far not too much traffic. He's going to go and keep going in this direction, getting into Montclair and then out towards Ontario area and then into Fontana. But at this pace, if the traffic remains open at this point, it's only going to take about 20 to 30 minutes, less than that, probably about 20, 25 minutes to get back to that Fontana area. But once again, you see the CHP is just willing to hang back here. They're not even, they're not even aggressively trying to get up behind the vehicle to check and see how many occupants in there, if it's more than just the driver, if anyone's lying down or anything like that. But they're just keeping pace here just to see where this goes and where it ends. They're pretty confident that, there's not an urgency to bring this to an end because there is not that high danger factor of zigzagging in and out of multiple lanes here, going high speed. So far they're just willing to run that brake behind it there, keep the freeway clear. And like I said, people are seeing the lights in their mirror and getting out of the way.
Yeah, so out of curiosity, at what speeds, Kevin, I don't know if you know this, but if they know that this driver is going to stay on this track, on the 10 freeway, it doesn't appear that it appears to be moving anywhere else or getting off the freeway, and officers can get far enough ahead to put down spike strips, is it possible that that could be something that they do to put the spike strips ahead, knowing that they're going to stay on the freeway here? And are there certain speeds that are way too dangerous for spike strips, let's say if they're going over 50 miles per hour?
Well, the spike strips, they can deploy at really any speeds. The trick is if they can get some deployed up ahead, if there's a portion of the freeway, if the driver is willing to stay in that carpool lane, then that's something that they could be talking about there. The problem is on a 5-lane freeway here, deploying the spike strips is difficult because he can see them up ahead and there's a lot of room to maneuver around it. But if he's going to stay in that carpool lane, or if the traffic is building up ahead to where they think they can deploy a spike strip in the carpool lane, then that's a strategy that they may use if they can get far ahead. Now, as we keep moving eastbound here, they're going to be handing it off soon to the Rancho Cucamonga CHP office because that's their jurisdiction. And usually what we see with CHP pursuits that go for a long distance through multiple jurisdictions, the LA County out of West Covina, out of there, they're going to switch off to Rancho, hand it off to them, and they're going to pick up the pursuit as it moves more and more into the Inland Empire here.
Yeah, that was a point that we had brought up earlier, that when it does go the mileage, the distance here, so to speak, once it goes into other jurisdictions, then other officers come out to help.
Yeah, CHP will put fresh officers into it. And officers that know their area, their region in that area. So the Rancho officers will take care. They may even be making some discussions now about setting up spike strips farther down, especially if it continues in the carpool. It's been in the carpool lane for at least 10 miles now coming off of the 605. So staying in that carpool lane is an ideal thing for the CHP, that there are portions of that carpool lane that are wide enough to where they can put a car in the center divider safely, and then an officer in the center divider as well, and try to deploy those spike strips to see if they can hit it. The speeds are relatively low yet. They're not going to get up. Pit maneuvers can only be done at 35 miles an hour and below. So we're still up in the 60-mile-an-hour range here. But the driver has stayed in that carpool lane, number 1 lane, all the way from the 605. So that's an ideal strategy for the CHP as it moves eastbound here.
Yeah, I mean, consistency in terms of this driver can be the friend of police officers if they know exactly that this driver is going to stick to this HOV lane and stay on the same course and not veer off course and get off the freeway here. So perhaps if they look ahead, they know they can deploy some spike strips ahead and try to slow this vehicle at some point. Certainly that would be very effective if they could get them down the right exact location at the right time. It'll certainly disable this vehicle significantly if they're able to do that.
Yeah, we're into the Montclair area now as we're going eastbound on the 10 freeway. So in Montclair and coming up next into Upland. So that plan, I'm sure, is being discussed by watch commanders on what they want to do, or if they do, if they could be, they're just going to let this ride out because once again, the speeds are not very high, not a lot of aggressive moves left and right and multiple lanes through the freeway here. So they may just, it does look like that they are just going to let this ride out until it comes to a stop here. There's nothing highly dangerous about it. They had no phone calls have been made into the to dispatch to saying that the driver is distressed in any way or anything like that. So far, all we know is a male driver in a stolen vehicle, and it's been straight and narrow for the past 25 minutes.
What does that investigation look like for officers? What are they learning about the suspect or the vehicle itself?
Well, it all depends on this. If anybody sees this vehicle or knows this vehicle, if they call into CHP and give them any information, or if it was the circumstances around it being stolen, if it was just stolen off of the street, if it was stolen by an acquaintance or something like that, that kind of information is helpful to the CHP. But we haven't heard anything else about that at this point. So now we're just kind of following along here with the CHP as it goes along. So it looks like they're, it looks like they're making they're making division changes here. You can see some of the CHP units pulling back and other ones picking up. So it looks like they're making division changes here as we move into the upland area.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have seen pursuits and we've covered them ad nauseum go on for hours and hours and end and seeing them actually run out of gas. So that could also be a strategy too, as you said, if they're not going to be, if this driver doesn't exhibit extreme erratic behavior and isn't that much of a danger to drivers, perhaps it's better to just let the gas run out. Still no telling how much gas is inside that vehicle right now. Eastbound 10 freeway approaching Mountain Avenue, looking at speeds 60 to 55 miles per hour. And again, it's interesting, we're looking at traffic there on the westbound side of the 10 freeway, extremely heavy, and on the eastbound side, certainly not as heavy. And it looks like this driver has a clear path ahead on the 10 freeway.
Yeah, a straight path. Now, Kevin, we're hearing that this is a Honda Civic. Can you confirm that?
That's what I'm hearing as well. And, the Honda Civics, they have a really good gas mileage. You go a lot far.
Yep.
It's one of, and in discussions too, the Honda is, one of the most stolen vehicles in the country. So I guess whether or not it's the ease of stealing them or also for the parts of stealing them. But, there's going to be a little more slowdown here as we pass the Ontario Airport, after we pass the Ontario Airport, and then just about before the 15 freeway. And then I can tell you, the 15 freeway northbound, the traffic is starting to build up a little bit as you make that transition, and then it opens up towards after Foothill Boulevard north of the 15 freeway. But so far, everything is moving wide open here as we go eastbound. Like I said, once again, coming up on the Ontario Airport, just on the north side along the 10 freeway. And again, CHP, they're changing their units out, changing their officers out to have a fresh take on it. This has been going for a while. The adrenaline level for those officers is kind of calming down a bit, so everyone has a good focus on it because the driver has not been out of control in any way. And so we'll have to see what happens next. But the pursuit's kind of just following along with him here as he goes on the 10 freeway.
So this was all called in by officers in Fontana when this driver here, one male inside this reported stolen Honda Civic, crossed over the double yellows, tried to pull him over. They ran the plates, and sure enough, it came back as stolen. So from Fontana, and here we are in the Upland area, the suspect on the eastbound 10 approaching the 15. So we're going to see if, in fact, he makes the transition to the 15. And Kevin, as you mentioned, we're seeing the traffic start to back up here. And he did move from the carpool lane over a little bit here. So we're going to find out if he decides to exit at the next junction.
Yeah, there's a lot of traffic coming up here as you move eastbound, and then it does open up a little bit as it gets to the 15 freeway. So there's gonna, we're gonna see some of that traffic open up. It looks like he's moving over to the right. Whether or not he's trying to get off or if he's going to make a transition to the 15, we'll have to see what happens here. But up ahead, looking up ahead up at Milliken, looks like there was a small collision and everything's off to the right shoulder, but it just kind of slowed things down overall. But you can see it's moved over to the right shoulder. It doesn't look like the carpool lane was slowing down, but we're starting to get there's a unit off to the side there. I don't know, see if he's going to pop out with some stop six. No. Okay. So that was looked like it was an Ontario PD unit that was just standing by on the freeway there. So we're just going to see where he is. Speeds have dropped considerably down here, down to about 40 miles an hour. So we'll see if it doesn't look like they're going to get aggressive to try to pit the vehicle at this point, because they're just still kind of following behind it at a safe distance, and despite the fact that speeds have dropped down. So we'll have to see if all the heavy traffic is just going to bring this to a stop as well.
Okay, on the 10 freeway now at Archibald, approaching North Archibald Avenue. So again, we're going to see if this driver does decide to take the 15 freeway, or if this driver continues past the 15, stays on the 10 freeway, then we're looking at going back into the city of Fontana, or that area where we believe this pursuit had started. It does look like this driver, who had stayed on the fast lane throughout for a very long period of time, has now moved over to the right-hand lane and has slowed down quite a bit now, and now picking up speed here just a bit, but those officers following closely behind as he continues to move forward.
And Kevin, we see that a lot in these pursuits when the suspect, in fact, makes his or her way back to the neighborhood that they're familiar with.
Yeah, they're going back to a place that they are, like you said, they are familiar with, that sometimes they may have family there. They might go and they'll just surrender back at home. So this has been a long drive coming all the way through, coming from the North Long Beach area up the 605 and then down, and then coming east on the 10 here. That's a long drive there, but he may just be trying to get back back to a home or so. Okay, you can see he's kind of staying in the far right lanes there, and traffic is still running by smoothly on the left. So it looks like he's looking for that transition to the 15, I'm betting here, because he's moving over to the side. Now they're going to...
Kevin, I'm going to interrupt you politely here because you have just a slight delay. So he is now on the far right lane looking to scoot by the traffic that's jamming up here, and did so successfully, and then now merging into the next lane over. So CHP is certainly, weaving in and out with him.
He's still got a little bit of ways to go before the 15 freeway, so we're going to have to see where that split goes, because that number 1 lane was still open for him to go. So he's still staying in those right lanes.
It looks like he's now approaching the eastbound 10 freeway at Haven Avenue. So this is why we're seeing a lot of heavy traffic here, because of the 15 freeway and slowly approaching the 15 freeway here. And that's why it gets all bound up in that area near the 10 freeway and the 15. And so appears to be in an effort to weave around this traffic, he's going on to the right-hand shoulder here to try to get around some of all the traffics here, all the traffic, the vehicles, the trucks that are trying to make the change or go through the interchange. All right,
there's just a lot. You can see there's just a lot of traffic. Like I said, there was an accident farther up ahead that kind of slowed things down. So maybe we're trying to wait to clear that up there, but he's still hanging on to that,
looks like
the right side.
He is making the transition onto the 15 freeway.
Can you tell, Kevin, is that the transition to the 15?
He should be. No, I think that's going to be. No, that's going to be getting off of the freeway.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, so getting off.
He's getting off of the freeway over by the Ontario airport.
Okay, so this is the first that we've seen since we've been covering this for the last 30+ minutes or so. So now, is that the driver right there in the front there?
Yeah. So
okay.
it continues onto the.
It's now onto surface streets.
That's off at Haven. So we got off at Haven here. We're getting off at Haven.
Okay, we got off at Haven.
And so making southbound that's gonna take you right across the approach end of Ontario Airport here. So.
Okay, now in the city of Ontario, as you said, Haven Avenue, which is really close to
Actually
the...
going northbound on Haven. So northbound on Haven, he went northbound on Haven, so that's
Okay.
going to cross over the...
Cross back over the 10 freeway now on the northbound side of the 10 freeway on Haven.
At
very
an
close to the
intersection
city.
here, right? At an intersection here, and stops in the middle, and the officers stop as well. And now, obviously, he's trying to figure out what's next, as he now is able to get through this intersection.
So we're going to be in the we're going to be into Rancho Cucamonga here as we go northbound on Haven.
Okay.
Right. Northbound on Haven now, so we've been watching this pursuit for quite some time over the past hour or so, and it was largely on freeways here in Southern California, from the 605 freeway, the northbound lanes, spilled onto the 10 freeway, the eastbound lanes, and now just recently just got off there at Haven Avenue in the city of Ontario, went northbound on Haven Avenue onto still on Haven Avenue, and now in the city of Rancho Cucamonga. Here we see again this driver has not been that erratic, and even stopping now at the intersection for the stoplights here. And there you see all of the police units still following very closely behind.
So, Kevin, let's talk about just the change in approach now that the suspect is off the freeway on surface streets.
Yeah, well, since a lot of the surface streets in Rancho Cucamonga are still like 4 lanes, so spike strips are still probably not in the mix of it here. But the way that he's driving, following the street lights, and they may, if he makes a turn, if he comes to an intersection where it looks like he makes a turn, the pit has probably been authorized at this point, because they'll bring it to a stop in that manner. So if he comes to an intersection where it looks like he's going to make a right or left-hand turn, and the speeds stay slow as they have been through all of this, then the lead unit will come up and they'll pit this vehicle, because the speeds have not been high. Like you said, we watched it go down the 10 freeway here at normal speeds, about 65, 70 miles an hour, got off the freeway, hasn't been running any red lights here, holding for the red lights, actually. And so as we make our way northbound, if he does find a point in which he makes a right or left-hand turn, they've probably been authorized to make the pit as long as it stays at 35 miles an hour or less. But it has been so far. As the light changed, he went, but he didn't floor it. He didn't drop it. We're still going about 40 miles an hour.
No, and so he's now at the next red light here. He's stopped. He's doing, as you're supposed to do. So what's the mentality here for officers? Why not box them in any way that they can?
Well, there's still a certain amount of uncertainty about the driver. They haven't confirmed that he's not armed, so they're just going to file back here. But they do have it. It looks like the way that they're setting up, though, they do know this vehicle is going to keep going, because usually when they come to a stop, they'll open their doors, try to get the driver to come out, use a PA system to get the driver to come out. But each time we've come to a red light here over the past couple of blocks, they haven't taken that stance, like it's come to an end. So they know this is going to keep going until it reaches a point at which they can bring it to an end, or the vehicle breaks down or runs out of gas. But now you can see moving northbound here, they're going to start getting into an area, the streets are going to tighten up a little bit. Speeds are still running about 50 miles an hour, which is still the speed limit for the street. So, but they're looking for that point at which the car can make a turn, slow down enough, and they can pit it and bring it very peacefully and quickly to a stop here.
Yeah, sometimes you see the drivers react to the way the officers behave. We've seen officers try to do pit maneuvers in the past, and the drivers are completely aware that what's going to take place here, or what they're attempting to do, and then what ends up happening is the drivers react and they end up speeding up. It becomes also a more dangerous situation. So these officers, the strategy here so far has been to take this approach where to keep the distance, keep following, but keep a close distance behind because the driver has not been driving at a very high rate of speed, almost normal speeds, and hasn't been terribly erratic at this point. So continues there northbound in Rancho Cucamonga on Haven Avenue. Slowly will be approaching Foothill Boulevard, and then onto the foothills there. The 210 freeway is where they're gonna start approaching here. So looks like this driver has been even obeying all of the traffic signals, stopping at red lights, and at this point, it doesn't look like the officers are going to be taking any forceful maneuvers to try and put this this pursuit to an end and continue to just follow the vehicle here. This is about as dangerous as you see this driver behaving,
right.
Crossing double lines, now going past a bike lane and then trying to weave around traffic to get away, and running that red light to make a right turn onto a street here in Rancho Cucamonga.
So no longer northbound Haven at this point. We'll have to get a clear location for you here. In the city of Rancho Cucamonga, the officers are right behind him. Another helicopter in our shot there. You know, and again, it is nice to see that the road service streets aren't jammed up much either. A lot like what we saw on the freeways, which is, you know, rare. But
well, I mean, this is here's
yeah.
Obviously, as we said, no pursuit is safe, and
sure.
That was definitely a really dangerous maneuver there, going right through the intersection and almost getting into an accident there with another vehicle going the opposite direction. So
that was really the first close call that we've seen.
So
that's the first time that we've seen
right.
anything out of normal driving. I mean, most of the other stoplights he stopped for, and then and then so that was the first kind of aggressive kind of move. But you can see we're getting into smaller streets here, kind of mixed industrial and residential. The farther we go north, we're going to get more into residential areas. So,
making a turn here into some sort of a driveway, Kevin. And it looks like a parking lot of a business, perhaps.
Well, this is where they could get boxed in. So
right.
Went on Arrow Street, and then now on Red Oak was the last. So going into some kind of a parking structure, what looks like to be some sort of an office complex there, and some of the trees now obscuring our view. But let's see if we can get a better look. Looks like the driver. Some of the trees here obscuring our view, but the officers are out, so it looks like the driver did get out. They have their guns drawn, and now approaching the suspect. You see people there on the roof
already. So you can think then that the suspect was in touch with somebody at this building, perhaps, and said, "I'm coming."
They have a canine out there now. No doubt they're telling the suspect, giving commands to the suspect to put his or her hands up. It did look like he.
So the driver did come out with his hands up as he was walking into the entryway there. So
interesting.
Right. So Kevin, it seems that he may have been in touch with somebody inside this building. Why people were already so quick to be on the roof? As we're getting a look at the suspect now, looks like he's on his knees.
We're just construction workers on the roof there, so they just happen to be up there. But you can see that this area is, it looks like it's going to be a medical building. So, he may have known someone.
Oh, the canine is let out and has got the suspect for the takedown here because clearly he wasn't obeying
he
what
just
officers.
dropped something as the canine took him down. There's
looks like
something
a
that's
shoe
on the
came
ground.
off.
Oh, yeah, that's a shoe. Okay, and it looks like the suspect is now in custody.
Aspen Family Medicine and Geriatrics in Rancho Cucamonga, where this pursuit
it looked like
comes
the
to an
door
end.
was locked. It looked like the door was locked, and he was still trying to get in. So that's why, they deployed the dog because he was still trying to make an effort to get into the building. They, like you said, they may have known that he was going there. The door was definitely locked. That he was trying to get in. He was trying to talk to somebody inside to let him in. So that's why at that point, they needed to deploy the dog to get him to comply and get him into custody before he made entry into the building.
Okay, Aspen Family and Geriatrics, we're looking at 10,787 Laurel Street in Rancho Cucamonga. And there you see the suspect now in custody. This is off of Route 66 in Rancho Cucamonga. Foothill Boulevard.
Okay, so to wrap up what we've just witnessed here on the Fox 11 News at noon, this pursuit suspect, we picked it up northbound 605 in Carson. Reports of a stolen vehicle, reports that it was a Honda Civic. One man inside led police officers all the way to Rancho Cucamonga, where he pulled up to this office building. The Aspen Family Medicine and Geriatrics in Rancho Cucamonga on Laurel Street got out of the vehicle, tried to make entry into the building, was unsuccessful. Police let the canine loose, the canine with the takedown of this suspect.
So it looks like it is a code 4 here, that the suspect is now in custody. By and large, it didn't look like the suspect exhibited any erratic behavior at all. It doesn't appear that anyone was hurt in any of this. We'll, of course, have a full report on the Fox 11 News.
The ultimate driving machine.
Slurred speech, stumbling, reeking of alcohol.
Why are you recording me?
Some even caused